right. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for taking time to be with us here on Tuesday. Arts Connect Tuesday. And we've got folks popping on. We're up to about a dozen or so. We've got the record going, and all of these are recorded and kept on our archive at roanokearts.org/Tuesdays. And you can always find the link for the meeting there. And you can find the schedule for the upcoming meetings. And we'll run through the schedule in a little bit too. Tonight, I wanted to start with a little bit of reflection just about intention. And I think we're going to be focusing a little bit on intention as we're talking about the neighborhoods and as they dig into the Arts Connect Neighbors catalog. They're modeling. So, and how far we can get with a little bit of intention. And so last year I had kind of a word of intention for the year. I think I'm still kind of working on that same word. I haven't mastered it yet. And that was equanimity. And I think so I'm gonna keep working on that. But this year I've also been thinking a lot. A word kept coming to me in interviews and such, and it was yearning. And you know how there's something very specific about that. Like, it's not just curiosity. I mean, it's like
easier for me to say as well.
Oh, yearning?
Yeah.
Yeah, yearning, yeah.
Yeah, the equity thing.
Oh, it's equanimity, yeah. That's not. But the fact, like, if you really want to engage with something, and you feel it deep inside, you really should pursue that. And I can think about things like at points in time where I was really could have gone down this deep path. And I wonder, what if I had gone a little bit deeper and followed it? But sometimes we think, oh, well, maybe if I want to do it that much, it's a luxury and I should be doing something I should be doing. At any rate, I am interested in what your intention is, like what you've got in the back of your mind this year that you're trying to learn. If you've got anything that you want to share. Yeah.
A learning intention.
Yeah, kind of a learning intention or growth intention or yeah. If anybody has anything like that. Yeah.
I feel like my personal one for the year is purpose. I finally settled on a word for the year, and that's what I'm gonna do this year. Last year was empowerment. But I think as far as the work that I'm gonna do with Arts Connect, I think accessibility is one that is coming up for me, like making art accessible to people who may not otherwise get to interact with it.
Right.
Yeah.
Excellent. That's super appropriate. Yeah.
I can go next. My motto this year is living the dreaming, because there have been a lot of things I've really yearned for and dreamt, and I'm just feeling like this is the year to do them, or that they're kind of feel them present. Yeah, one of those is exploring how we can connect in community to support each other in grief, and what is a way. What will happen when that is maybe an entry point for us to connect, and how arts can be a part of that.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not following it.
Okay.
I get it.
Okay, cool. Anybody online? Joy.
I've been thinking a lot lately about service, like how to serve my community to the best of my ability with the gifts that I have. Because people think of arts as just entertainment, especially being a musician and a singer. It's just like, oh, I've spent so many years playing gigs at restaurants, being kind of like background music, and and that's fun. But music is something more than that. It's healing, and it can bring so much more to the community. So I've just been thinking more about how can I serve? How can I really contribute in a meaningful way with my gifts? Service.
What about you, Misty?
hold on. My kid is in the shower and I thought I was going to get her. Sorry. It's like my mom and I are co-parenting at this point, and it was one of those moments I was like, I'm fully listening to Joy because that resonates with me. And then I was like trying to make sure my kid was getting, it was a thing.
Oh,
It was
cool.
a mom moment. So sorry. So hey everybody. For the record, for the folks who are in the live meeting, can you guys say your names? Because you don't have like a little cool thing. So I don't know who you are when you're talking. If we could do that, just so I can put names with faces, because that's a thing I struggle with. So I appreciate if we could do that next time. But for me, I usually come up with a word. I've been coming up with a one word for my mantra every year, probably for like the last 7 years, and I've done a piece of art, usually incongruent with that. So last year my piece was Rise, and this year I feel like it's Unstoppable. I kind of keep circling back to it. I haven't made my piece of art yet with that. And for me, kind of really piggybacking off of what Joy says, I actually was just processing this the other day, in regards to what my purpose is, and serving the community. And I realize that our time here on this earth is finite. We have a certain limit of time of our opportunity to interact in this space. And how can I give the most or empower the most people with what I have left, right? What I have of that day. And so for me, trying to find the ways to make the most impact with the time that I have is important. And so I think being able to do this in group settings is so important. And I think being strategic about how we're scheduling things, kind of something is also important for me. And I struggle with community because I didn't have like family and community growing up. So this is a new opportunity for me to kind of have community. So it's a learning opportunity, and I'm going to stop there because my ADHD brain is stopping. So I appreciate you guys.
Great, thanks, Misty Dawn. And
Hey,
anybody else?
I can
Yeah.
go.
Corey.
Okay, yeah, I was going to piggyback on accessibility because I think there's a lot of people in the community that probably have a need to express themselves, but maybe not means. So that's one reason that I think the catalog is so great, is people have an option to go do so many things and it's all free. So I really am glad about that.
Great. Anybody else?
Susie.
Susie.
Yeah, Susie.
Sorry, I got food in my mouth. I think my word of the year is more of a personal growth thing, which is like I'm really focused on healing right now. Both if I am going to give anything to anyone, I really have to start with myself. And there's some just wounds that I'm really tired of festering. So like that's my focus this year. And that involves like a lot of other action steps, like putting up really strong boundaries. I think something that's been really healing for me is to give myself permission to step back, actually, and not have to fix everything or like I don't have to take an action step. Actually, I can just sit in this or sit in something. And that's been really healing, to like the practice of putting up really good boundaries and not saying yes to everything. And also the practice of like trying to do what I think is right, and not necessarily easy. And that can be really healing. So I've been trying to find those paths, and that has come up in my art a little bit. I've been only saying yes to projects where I can tap into somebody else's work. For a while, I was feeling the pressure to like spearhead something, and I like that's not sustainable at this time. So like finding balance, taking a back seat, acting in a supporting role, saying no, like these are actually really healing things for me right now. Yeah, I think that's going to be my 2024, is releasing myself from having to have any answers or do anything other than like what I can tap into. And I think this is going to be a year of supporting others for me, which feels pretty good, actually.
Great. Yeah. Does anybody else want to share before we roll on?
I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, right.
It's tough to follow all these. I'm tempted really to kind of be swayed by those intentions because healing, you know, and the permission that you're doing, Suzanne, by stepping back means that we're all empowered to do so as well. So that's really terrific. I think honestly, though, I think the word that best suits what my word for the year is multiply. And you know, meet as many people as possible, make as many things as possible, just kind of scale things up and just see what that feels like. And I suspect it's not sustainable. So you might see me disappear for a while, but I enjoy seeing where that bar is and seeing how far we can go.
It's like the ocean, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, you don't have to sustain it, but you feel some.
I'll just disappear for a while.
Yeah, you feel some energy.
Float face down.
Yeah, excellent. Let me,
Marianne.
Marianne, what about you?
Let's see.
Oh, you were already off mute.
Now you're muted.
Yeah, you need to unmute now.
Yeah.
Good thing I was being quiet. I missed the question, but I got the gist of it by listening to the others. So my word for 2024, well, it's actually 3 words: release and renew. So I am in the process of releasing things that do not support me or support who I am. That's thoughts, actions, beliefs, ways of making a living, and renewing those things that do support me, renewing my thought patterns, renewing practices that I let fall aside. So that is my mantra for the year. That is my goal for the year, to release and renew.
I have one.
Yeah, Catherine.
Well, that's funny because while I was trying to get everything set up to actually pay attention, my is going to be to pay attention, to just focus on one and to let go of the myth of the multitasking. Like while I'm in this meeting, I'm also going to be working on my paintings, or, you know, I'm just going to try to learn this year to let go of this idea that your brain can only do one thing at a time. And that's something that I've been kind of having to really learn, because I have to back up a lot of times because I forgot something or I did something wrong or was distracted because I was trying to do too many things at one time. So my focus is going to be to focus.
Hey, and getting dog love doesn't count. You can do that simultaneously.
Yeah.
So that's a good way to focus.
All right.
That's awesome.
All right. Anybody else before we slide on?
I have one. My
Sure.
focus, this is Samel. My focus is connection for this year. And that's connections with myself, connections with my family, connections with the community, connections with the earth, just making connections in each opportunity at each moment that I have to make a connection, and not bringing in my filters into that connection, being open to whatever that connection brings and whatever blossoms from that connection. And my camera is acting up, so I can't use it at this time. Thank you.
Well, that's fantastic. And I can just see you and others in the call modeling that in the work that we're doing this year for folks. And I'm glad you introduced yourself, Samel, and showed your face, because when I saw Purple Love Power, I thought maybe it was Donna Davis, who's on the Arts Commission, and she's a big fan of Purple and Prince, and I thought maybe it was her. Yeah. Okay.
Well, we're gonna have to meet, because Prince is my dude, and I love Purple.
It's gonna be a Purple Love Fest. I'm convinced, and you'll meet Donna very soon, I'm sure. Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna share the screen, and then we've got our main focus tonight is and we're turning over to our facilitation team, and Katie's gonna get us started off talking about how we're gonna be engaging our neighbors.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great. Thanks, Doug. And if you're up for advancing the slides once we get there,
I think I've got it figured out. Oh, there's a
Yeah.
little button there too.
great. So hey, everybody, as Doug said, our facilitator and coaches team is here to support y'all as artists, whether you're an artist in residence or an artist that has an entry in the catalog or both. And now that the catalog's complete, we're kind of starting to enter into the phase where we're gonna be very active with you all. And so we wanted to do an overview today, especially of the catalog and the processes. And so we're all gonna be kind of jointly presenting, and that will include myself, Joy Truskowski, and Antonio Stovall, who I don't see here yet, but who will be hopping on shortly. And Doug is gonna give us a lot of framing around the catalog to begin with. So if you'll advance to the next slide, please.
I will.
Yeah, so this is just a little overview of our session, which is much of what I just shared. We're gonna pass it to Doug to just give an overview about the catalog. Then I'll share some of the steps of the process. So like what happens when somebody submits a request and how we'll be connecting with the artists and the catalog. And Joy will be going into some detail of what is y'all's role as an artist in this process. And then when Antonio hops on or otherwise, we'll kind of just have a little bit of framing discussion around what we shared, clarifying questions and just some other ideas about how we can approach this as a collective. So with that, I'll pass it to you, Doug.
All right. And I've got the real easy job tonight, and that's just to step back a little bit and we talked about this as we built it, and we sent out the copy as we were scrambling this fall, and when all the artists were writing your proposals. And every time I pick it up, I still have to say how excited it makes me feel and how proud of our community I am when I look at it. And I say, look at all of these artists who are willing to engage with neighbors who haven't done this before. I just think it's a really rich area. And one thing that made me feel terrific was, well, Antonio wasn't able to go because they got called to present the legislature. So he wasn't able to be there with me last week, but I went to Wasena. And Wasena has a really kind of higher capacity neighborhood group. It was a terrific meeting. They had maybe 30 people there, maybe just shy of 30 people. And when the president of the neighborhood association reached out, he called me and he said, I read this cover to cover. He said, and I'm blown away. He said, it's perfect. It's just what we need, and we can use this. But the fact that he read it,
Yeah.
that was the big thing, right? Because when you open it up, there are a lot of words on it, and it's easy to kind of skip over the words and go to the pictures and start looking at the catalog. But I really do encourage you to read this tip to toe. Just take a little bit, it won't take long to read it, but there's a lot of information in there about what we are trying to do. And we're going to encourage neighbors to read it, and we're going to talk to them about it in different ways. Not everybody is going to sit down and read it for sure, but we are being really intentional about this. And we have maybe 8 or 9 submissions so far in who have said, we want to do this, or we want to do the other. Some are coming from neighborhoods. Not all of them have a group of neighbors who have come together yet. So we're going to step some folks back and say, okay, now who else can we pull into this? And then some of them are from organizations that are attached to a neighborhood and who are interested in providing something. So we're going to step back with them and say, well, what would it look like to connect with the neighborhood in developing something? And perhaps that's a neighborhood committee or something. So we're doing that, having those kind of conversations right now. We're doing that very gently. But we are trying to get in all parts of the city. And there's the map of the neighborhood. We've adjusted it online. There's even a newer neighborhood that wasn't in when they built this map. So we've got another neighborhood, Fairland, that we've got on the online map now. But we are we want to make sure that that it is neighborhood driven. And so you'll find yourself having to deliver that message sometimes too, because somebody will say, oh, hey, I see that you can do a drawing class. Can you come do a drawing class at my church? And yeah, that's where we hope we get with this too, where we have, this is a marketing catalog for artists to have a revenue stream that anybody can tap.
Mhm.
And I can see corporations wanting to have you do the board retreat for sometime. But first, we're really focused on the neighborhoods. That's our priority. That's our priority this year. So you'll be helping us deliver that message as well. And now, one thing that we want to be really clear about neighborhoods is that a neighborhood does not just mean a single family home that has parents and 2 kids in it. That kind of stereotype where people think, oh, in order to be invested in neighborhood, you have to own your home and it has to be a standalone home. That's really, really old school thinking. Our neighborhoods are really diverse and they include apartment buildings. Our neighbors include the businesses that are around them. Sure, some people have lived there for multiple generations. Some people have just moved there. So our neighborhoods also include group home settings as well. So we want to be as inclusive as possible. And we want to encourage, as people are looking at their neighborhood, we want to encourage them that way as well. So sometimes even if we have a higher capacity neighborhood, and I encouraged them the other night, I said, oh, it would be fun to get everybody's address and put pins on a map and see who people are involved are, and then where we might do additional work in outreach. So you'll see there kind of the list of, that our neighbors speak many languages. Our neighbors are recent additions. They've lived here for a long time. We want to welcome everybody. And if we're doing an event, we want it to be accessible. And we are all learning. That means having a conversation. Like who's in the neighborhood that might not feel included if we have it in a space where you have to climb some steps in order to get there. So we're looking for spaces like churches that are used to having people needing access to them, that are ready for that. Parks are great like that, especially if you look at where the sidewalk is and don't do it out in kind of really rough grass or whatnot. But that's important to us too. We're trying to be as inclusive and welcoming as possible and help people have those conversations too, and everything seems to be working. I was checking the forms again today. The forms are coming in, this is technology and it's a new website for us. So sometimes things break. Misty Dawn saw something that had broken. So she let us know today and we were able to get it. Even better, we were able to get it fixed.
Wow.
So if you see anything, let us know. But that computer is going to be the key way to contact us. There's also addresses and phone numbers in the back as well. Not addresses, but email addresses and phone numbers in the back. But these conversations, that's really, if I said this was anything, it's an invitation to have a conversation with the neighborhoods. And we've got to have a little bit of time. If somebody says, hey, I want to do this next week, that doesn't give us time to get the most out of it. Because even more than an arts project, this is a capacity building project.
Mhm.
And it comes from work that we've done over the last decade in working in rural communities where we give them a little grant and we coach them through decision-making processes and taking action. If they worked alongside us, we give them the money. And out of 27 communities we worked with, like 26 were art projects. So the question was, why aren't we working with artists to help lead these projects? So you all are community development agents. Thank you. we appreciate it. And because it's a natural thing, right? If we want to affect the world around us, look at it creatively. It involves the arts. All right, and then geography. We're very open in saying, if we get all the submissions for Southwest in the first quarter and it could spend all the money, we're not gonna do it. We're gonna tell people no, and we're gonna put extra work into getting in Northwest and Southeast and Northeast. We wanna get this all over the community. We've gotta be, straightforward about that. And then, intention. So if a community is gonna go to the trouble to close down a street and have a block party and invite, some movement into that space, invite some singing into that space, invite some painting into that space, we wanna ask them why they wanna do it. So that they're going, as they go through these, motions, they're doing it with that intention. Just like we said, talked about our intention tonight. Just by thinking about it, it's like that, we can get so much more out of it. It's like the study they did with, it was with workers in a hotel. And they said, okay, well, you are exercising. Today you are exercising. As you are vacuuming, as you are dusting, as you're doing this, you're exercising. And then they measured their calories that they used, and it would increase dramatically. They did the same work, but they were thinking of it as exercise. So if a neighborhood is doing the work and they're thinking, oh, well, and they don't have to be thinking about the fact that if a big storm comes and they need to be able to talk to their neighbor, that they're going to know how to do it now. And if they need to work with their neighbor because they've lost power, that it's going to be so much easier than building that relationship in the dark later on. They don't need to think about it that way, but but they think about what they want to get, even just, I want to get to know my neighbor, then they might take the opportunity to say hi when they're or have a different kind of conversation when their hands are in paper mache and they're getting ready do you think that's enough for me?
Yeah.
I'm gonna turn it back over. I'm gonna advance and turn it back over.
Awesome. Cool. Well, I'll take it from here. So we were able to meet as a facilitation and coach team the other week, and we were like, okay, how is this actually gonna start working? And so this is our beginning point, and Doug mentioned and very wisely that we're all gonna be building this together, but this is kind of a beginning idea of what we're thinking the process will look like, which would be starting first with sharing the catalog with neighbors. As artists, you all can help with that, and anybody in our community can do so. And so a neighbor comes across a catalog, they open it up, they start reading. There are multiple ways for them to apply. They can do it on their phone or on the internet on their computer. And when they do that, the request is gonna come to Doug. And Doug's gonna look at their application and kind of get a sense of their ideas. He'll talk with them and see what their goals and interests are. And then Doug's gonna pair the neighborhood point of contact / group with one of the facilitators or coaches. So that would be either myself, Joy, or Antonio. And so then we'll be tasked with connecting, if you'll go to the next slide. So connect with one of us. So we'll start by meeting with the neighborhood group and making sure the event aligns with their goals, kind of like that framing question Doug was saying, what are your intentions? And being able to have a sense of whether they have the capacity to get the right space, and if they have engaged other neighbors, like kind of just getting a little bit of a sense of the landscape. And then the second meeting with the neighborhood group would be with the artist. And that's something we can also participate in as facilitators to support, but there may be a number of instances where you as an artist just feel really ready to move forward and you all can kind of take it and roll with it. Otherwise, we're happy to support and be part of that process and help to coordinate timing and things like that, and where we can meet, and like a gentle agenda. And then we'll be tasked with kind of just following up maybe in a few weeks to see how things are and checking in. And if you all need any additional support, you're also welcome to reach out to us. So that's kind of just a beginning part of the process. And I'm gonna pass it to Joy, and she's gonna outline a little bit more about the artist role, and then we'll have space for clarifying questions and discussion.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, hello. So the artist's role is, first of all, to spread the word. So, we're distributing these catalogs in all the local businesses and everything. But you as an artist, if you have, say, an email list or regular people that you work with, the clients, gigs, whatever it is, like tell the people who you already engage with about the catalog. I've been handing out catalogs around the city, and it's really amazing because everybody I've talked to doesn't know about it yet. And when I explain it, they get really excited. They're like, wow, this is so cool. And then, you know, I've been talking to people who I interact with and sing with. And yeah, so I just realized I'm a hypocrite because I haven't sent the word out on my own email list yet. I just realized that in this moment. So I will do that as well. This is also advice from me. So yeah, spread the word and let all your peeps know. And the more people who know, the more who will engage with us. And then number 2, meet with the neighbors. So once you know your project is chosen from a neighborhood, and we've seen in the process, you know, how Doug and Katie or I or Antonio is going to meet with them. So part of your role, once your project is chosen, is to meet with the neighbors yourself. And we like intention, that's like the key word for this whole evening. What are their goals? Which is another way of saying what is their intention? And then more importantly, how can you help them meet their goals? So how can your art support what they want to do? And then once you meet with them, you get down to like the nitty gritty, like what are the things that you need? You know, do you need electricity? What kind of space do you need? Are you going to do it outside? Are you going to do it inside in case of, you know, weather? So just, yeah, you'll get down to the nitty gritty of how, of what you need, how you can help them meet their goals, and then getting the word out about the event. And so, you know, do they have neighbors that they're already reaching out to? Is there a way that you can contribute to that? Yeah. And then number 3, contribute your art. So you're going to follow through and plan the event, and us facilitators / coaches are here to help you with that process. And that's it. So the important thing is to remember that intention, you know, like we're here to support the community. And so listen to their intention, support their intention, and be creative, because we're the artists. We're the ones who can really grow the community. And with that,
Great.
I will hand it off to Antonio if he's here, or
Yes, I am here.
okay, there.
Yes, sorry, I'm late. Unfortunately, the work doesn't stop. I've been out all day, and now I'm home and taking care of my son. And I believe that true healing of the community starts at home. So I'm continue the process of healing my home and doing the work home and spreading it out throughout the community. All right, so questions and discussions. So first question, are there any clarifying questions you have on what we shared?
Well,
Anybody?
I have a couple of questions. One is, what is the time frame that people have to have these requests submitted by? Like, is it have to be done in the year 2024, or is it up till a certain time frame? Do we have that? Do we have a deadline that people have to have their requests submitted by?
That's a great question. Yeah. It is the 24 calendar, and for the outdoor activities, there's a natural season for them. So that's why we hope people are planning them now, so that when the weather turns good, we'll be able to make the most of it. That said, we can really go until the money's spent. This is a 2-year grant. I just have to remember we have to report on this grant, although with the NEA, extensions aren't usually a problem. So if we get off to a slow start, we'd be fine. We've got plenty of money to be spending on it. In fact, Shalene Powell, who's not on tonight, but she's they're one of the partners in this, as well as Molly Hunter. But Shalene and I have already written the grant for the next round. So we hope it works. We're asking for more money to pay more artists. And I do want to say something too, that every grant we have written, we have not taken anything for the city and for city staff, or there's nothing going into a budget. All of this is going to pay artists in the community. So we're really, we're trying to keep that as much as possible. So we've applied for another $50,000 grant for the next step of it, which would be matched by the city for another 50. Yeah, but so time wise, we do want to get people thinking about it sooner rather than later. We want to get some examples out there. And so while you're out there as artists and you're working with the neighborhood, even in the planning session, document the planning session. And then if we have permission, we can share pictures on these pages for your project. We can have pictures of it in action. We can add video. We can do a lot with that. Yeah.
Well, I want to add one more thing. So I was at the event with Polly, and I was sharing a catalog with a woman who is planning the grand opening of the Angels of Assisi. And can we get you guys to come for our grand opening? And I was able to say, well, it's really about the neighbors. Like maybe if you could meet with the other neighbors on your street, that since you're going to be a new business or a new entity on that corner, like so that you could collaborate with your neighbors. But that was a question, like, can businesses put a request?
Yeah, yes, a business can be a great focal point for community. Think about the gathering places, the third spaces or third places that you like to gather at. Say a coffee house. At Angel's new building, there's a lot of neighborhood excitement about it. It could be that Old Southwest says, yeah, we want to get behind this, and you know what? Why don't we be the ones throwing them the party, or like feel like we're the ones throwing the party? Which that would be fine. Yeah, we want people to be creative about how community works, right? And try new things. So we're willing to try new things. Yeah.
I got one more, and I don't mean to take up, but this is important too. Like, so for me, I get booked for certain events on weekends that I know I won't be available. So is there a way for the artist to say, I'm available at these times and on these weekends? And then because as we move into the spring and summer, I'll get hired to do other events, and I do have to do those other things to make money, but I want to advertise this. So is there a way we could say, these are the weekends or the evenings that are available, so that we can kind of like kind of pencil them into our own calendar to plan to available.
Yeah, as soon as we get an inkling that somebody's interested in you, we'll let you know, and that okay, like, so I got a request. It's in Southeast. It's focused on there's a school in Southeast, and they are wanting to do kind of a school-based event, and I'm starting to ask them, like, I'm reaching out, okay, what about your neighbors? And I don't know that they have a relationship yet with any neighbors. But there's a potential there. So I could look at that and let you know if you're on there, hey, there might be an event coming there if I can make it work. And then you can do some planning. That's probably about as close as I can get on that, Catherine.
Can I add to that as well?
Sure, Joy.
Also, like when your project is chosen and when we have a meeting with the artist and the neighbors, that can all be part of that discussion, because the idea is that you're planning the event with the neighborhood. So it's a collaboration rather than the neighborhood just saying, this is what we want, this is when we want it. It's like, well, no, this is a collaboration. So that's going to be part of the discussion, is when you are or are not available.
Yeah. Misty Dawn.
A question I have, I know that we had talked about, you're asking the school, like these businesses, these kind of harder questions and trying to bridge that community. Say that like maybe because of confidentiality, because I think, Douglas, I know which school, what school you're talking about, some of it might be, HIPAA compliancy things as well, just because if it's a specialty school that they might not be able to do that. Or, just for certain clientele, you know what I mean? Like it might be something, is that where they would try to hire the artist outside of this? Is that what that, how you had talked about in the future of this being maybe more of a commercial catalog? This is just me asking, how would that work if they don't fit into the neighbors model? How can we still support them or offer that?
Yeah, we probably can, but I also don't want to compete against ourselves too drastically, because I know your time's limited too. Like Rachel Ann, how many times can you do a writing workshop in the month of say July?
A few. I could do a few.
Okay,
Yeah.
excellent.
It's only an hour.
Yeah. So that's a great question, Misty Dawn, and it has already come up in twice already. People were saying, well, how can we go ahead? I'm like, well, hold it. I got a grant here. We gotta deliver on. We put a lot of work into it. I'm not ready to undercut the model yet. I want to prove this. Yeah.
Okay, one other one that's kind of related to it. Part of the Daisy Art Parade, this is Brian Conan, sorry. Part of what I wanted to do at the end of Daisy Art Parade last year was have a stand or a table where artists could show what they've done. And I think I got the idea too late into the process to really recruit people. Is it possible to have a stand at Daisy Art Parade with the catalogs and someone to staff it?
Oh, yeah.
And that's not too late in the process. That's April 13th, so.
Oh yeah, we can definitely do that. In fact, I see that kind of like Arts Pop, like what we're gonna do.
Yeah, it's like another.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That'd be great.
And these things too, we'll pay stipends for Arts Pop, if we do that too. There'd be some things that are gonna be educational outreach of ways of getting this out, where we can go ahead and pay you to be doing some of these things. That's going to be a little bit bridging marketing and service delivery. And I'm really comfortable with that, because we got to be demonstrating it so people understand it. I said to somebody, I was like, one of my favorite examples when we were starting this was like, the comedian who does a little improv class with neighborhood to help them be in the moment and respond to each other. And the neighborhood the other night, they were like, are you crazy? People aren't going to come. People are terrified to come to something like that. I was like, oh, well, maybe they are. But we don't know until we experience it sometimes. So if they see circle singing happening, maybe, I know I stand on the edge and look at you and you say, come on in, but eventually I will. Yeah, I have to see it. All right,
next question.
Oops, sorry, I'm backwards.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry, Antonio.
You're making it worse, Doug.
I'm making it worse. Okay, there you go.
Okay. Final question. What else do you think is important to know from neighborhoods when you are working on a project with them? I'll read it one more time. What else do you think is important to know from neighbors when you are working on a project with them?
I think something that would be important for me is to know past trauma of the neighborhood, past wounds, past, significant events. It could be great things too. Those are ways that we can bridge that connection and kind of go in there aware, and also maybe just some of our own city's history within those neighborhoods. Everyone's learning about different neighborhoods and how they've been disenfranchised around the city. And I just think that really kind of knowing just, those kinds of wounds and triggers are important.
I would want to know what further organizing needed to happen around a project. So if a couple of leaders of a community organization think it's a really good idea to bring an artist in to do a project, but they aren't quite sure about the involvement of other people of that organization, or they want to broaden their participation, whose job is it going to be to do that community organizing around a project? Like, are the people already signed up and have the capacity and have committed? Or is my job going to be to also do some mobilization around a project? Because the time capacity for showing up and doing a workshop is so different than having to build relationships with community members, because that all of a sudden that timeline is completely unpredictable, and you have to move at the speed of trust. And then I'm just curious about at what stage do we join in on the community organizing aspect of that, and who's going to be involved and how? That would be something I would want to know.
So you're saying who's going to be marketing it and promoting it and coordinating it in the community?
Could be something like that. I'm using my background working with farmers as an example. So bringing people to the table, it's one thing to work with one organization, right? Say the Harvest Collective, that's one group in Roanoke, and they were on board from the beginning, but I had to do additional organizing with other groups around Roanoke and build those relationships and do some networking to bring other people into it. But that's just where my project took me. So I'm thinking about if there's an organization, for example, the Harvest Collective, that wants to do a circle singing piece with other farmers in the area, right? To celebrate the land they're working on. Whose job is it to bring in those other farmers? Because that's different than showing up and leading something where the people have already committed to it. And that can take a timeline and change it drastically. It goes from a couple of weeks of a project into what could be a year. It depends on how building relationships goes.
I just want to respond to that, and that's part of what our role is as facilitators and coaches, is to help both the artist and the neighborhood navigate through that. So if the neighborhood organization or the neighbors or whatever, they're saying, oh, this is what we want to do, we want to have this event, and we want to have all the kids come out for this painting community thing. Well, then the facilitator, we're there to step in and say, okay, well, how are you going to do that? Who has the connections with the kids? Do you know all the families with kids? Or how are you going to reach out to them? And then make sure people are accountable for those roles. So whatever action items we come up with, there's somebody in charge of that item, and it doesn't all fall on the shoulders of the artist or any one other person.
And my sense, Susie, too, is that these are neighborhood-led projects, and that the artist is being hired kind of as a consultant to come in. So the neighborhoods are really going to be doing the bulk of the gathering and the invitation and the hosting. The artist is going to be a partner and a support. And it may be, as an artist, you can say, hey, if you need help supporting, I'll share this on my social media, but not something that would be a huge lift for you.
Yeah. And then additionally, there might be some times where we'll ask artists in residence who are working with us to help on the facilitation side as well, specifically, especially where we have artists in residence who are closely working in specific neighborhoods.
Yeah.
And that's where the artist in residence model is going anyway. It's going to be more, next year and the year after, more neighborhood focused. Especially as we start to build around the Daisy Art Parade and do these Daisy art
I was about to
activation.
say, I do see kind of more what I do is that finding who should be talking, who should be included.
Yeah.
And that is a year-long process.
Oh, yeah, it's,
Yeah.
it's ongoing and yeah, forever, kind of that open arms. How do we help the neighbors kind of have that posture, start a project, do it? Not every project is gonna be super, super successful. I mean, they'll all be successful, but in a different way. Now, if you think, okay, well, we need to have, 40 people here for this paint night for it to be successful. That may be the wrong definition of success for us. I mean, we might need to say, well, and that's where I think, Misty Dawn's question about where's the community, where are we starting from? Our questions about what are the intention and goal. The goal can be pretty modest on some of these and still have some real success from it, I think.
And even asking the question of where the trauma is, like Misty was mentioning, is success right away, because that's allowed to be asked.
Yeah.
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 And I think when we meet with, when you meet with the neighbors, that it's just a place, there will be more space for you to ask additional questions that you find meaningful. We were just curious tonight to kind of hear if you had some ideas.
Oh, and
I
don't
have-
forget, who's that? Joy?
No, this is Samel.
Oh,
Knowing the demographic of the neighborhood and like what type of people, what type of events they've had in the past, and what has brought the people out to events would be a good thing to know, so that you can know like what type of events that type of neighborhood enjoys, because if the people don't enjoy it, then they might not want to come out to it.
Exactly. If they have a neighborhood culture of it, there are gonna be hot dogs. And, okay, well, make sure, okay, who's bringing the hot dogs? Okay,
Yeah.
Cause they're, and you know what? If that's part of their neighborhood culture, there's a pride point there too. And somebody is really good at getting the hot dogs. So let them shine, get the hot dogs. And we are celebrating 40 years of progress, art, and fun. And one thing, sometimes there are some neighborhood meetings where they may not have ever had a fun neighborhood meeting, because it's always been organized around a negative thing, or there have been certain personalities that have kept it in a certain mindset, and they've lost membership over time or whatnot. This can be fun, and you can help them have fun, and just by being there and providing your skills as the artist is going to take a lot of pressure off, because they don't have to do the agenda and worry about teaching somebody. They just have to get people there. They have to exercise only one certain muscle. They don't have to be fully responsible. Antonio, was that your last question?
Yes, that's my last question. Thank you.
Okay. Wait. All right.
We can tell you're a teacher, Antonio.
What makes you say that? How can you tell?
You're good at asking really thought-provoking questions.
Yeah, thank you.
Anything else, Katie?
I think that's all, yeah.
All right. And then, I'll stop.
We've got some people in chat saying things.
Okay. Oh, now we can see the chat. We had lost it for a while.
Yeah, sorry about that,
Yeah.
y'all.
I was wondering what was happening there with Katrina. They were having a paint party. Excellent. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah. Yeah, Susie, I bet we'll see some non-human friends if Old Southwest partners with Angels of Assisi. I bet we'll have a lot of non-human friends.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was really excited about it. Doug, while we're
Yeah.
just to have some clarity, like what about, like I get asked to do things like for like the community garden that is basically an organization, like would they be able to include the catalog offerings to their gatherings that they have at the community gardens?
Oh, it's a wonderful way to reach out to neighbors surrounding the community garden. Right.
Mhm.
So again, like what's their goal in doing it? if say it was a community garden where they just wanted to bring together the people who already had plots, and they weren't, focused as much on outreach with people surrounding them, then maybe it's not as much a fit because it's more internal. But, if that community garden has, serving that neighborhood and they want to get more people involved and they want to celebrate their crop and their harvest with the neighbors, I think it's a great fit.
Mhm. Would they need to engage a neighbor in the process of ideating, or could they
Oh, I bet.
ideate and then outreach?
I bet there's somebody already, I would imagine with a community
Yeah,
garden,
right.
somebody who's
Yeah.
already a neighbor. If there's a neighborhood association, they should, we're asking everybody to reach out to the neighborhood association if there's one that kind of serves that area.
Mhm.
Yeah, so but they don't have to, the neighborhood association doesn't really have to do anything for it if it's
Mhm.
organizing around something that's already separately organized.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's a lot of flexibility. Again, remember, we're gonna pay you, the artist, based on your invoice to us. And we'll give you the sample, the invoice and everything, kind of the way we did before, right? We kind of give you what that looks like. That way, we don't have to pay the neighborhood organization, or they don't have to have a 501c3 set up.
Cool.
Yeah. All right. Okay, and so we're about to, and any other questions on that? All right, we're gonna roll on. I want to thank everybody who signed up for Arts Pop. It's going to be fantastic, and we've got a great lineup. And in fact, well, yeah, I won't. Guess I could share the screen if it pops up. Well, no, I won't. I may not find it right away. Okay, we'll skip that. Oops, I can't skip it now.
Hey Douglas, while you're doing that, can I chime in on that like we had talked about?
Sure, yeah.
So I signed up twice just because I didn't know like how many and what was needed and everything like that. So if there's someone that has a burning desire to take a slot that I have signed up for, I'm willing to share. I just wanted to make sure there was no empty slots. So I am one of those people that's working on things like Susanna's saying and being an over yeser. So this is me stepping back on something.
Okay, so Misty Dawn, are you wanting to, you have a workshop and a table slot. Which one are you trying to?
Either one is fine if someone has a burning desire, whichever.
Mary Ann's got her hand up.
I would love
Mary Ann,
to, go
Yeah.
ahead. Am I
Are you looking-
unmuted?
No, you're good. Are you looking for a workshop or a table slot?
Workshop.
Workshop. Misty Dawn, do you want to give your workshop to Mary Ann?
That is totally fine with me.
Wonderful,
Mary
thank
Ann.
you.
Great,
You're
Mary Ann,
welcome.
if you can send me your very brief description, and you've seen the ones I've sent out, send me your very brief description tonight and I'll get that to the museum folks. for our
Okay,
marketing.
perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Misty. Appreciate it.
Excellent.
Third
Okay.
time's the charm.
Excellent. Okay, and then we've got our calendar out for February, so it's red, that's for Valentine's Day. And some things I want to make note of. Polly, you want to talk about your event you're working on for Sunday?
Sure. Everyone is invited to hear the stories written by David Ramey at the Todman Art Museum, Sunday, the 11th, 2 p.m. And there'll be a number of readers there from the Gainsborough community, family members who are still living in the area, in the valley with us. And yeah. Any questions, or should I say any more?
What time did you say?
2 p.m.
2?
2.
Are you in need of any other readers?
At this moment, I think we've got it covered, but I'll talk with you tomorrow or so if I hear a need.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I'm looking forward to it, Polly. Thank you for your work on that.
Yeah, and I guess I should mention that the show comes down the end of March, And so the purpose of this reading is, one, to get more citizens out to observe and study David Ramey's work, which is of Gainsborough neighborhood in the 1950s and 60s, as through his death in 2017. So he recorded his memories as a child, and it just amazing, incredible collection of work. I think there's over 700. I think I just read somewhere. Yeah, I thought it was just more like 300, but a prolific artist, starting at a young age and telling the history of the separation here in Roanoke and racism, and how Gainsborough was its separate city across the tracks and across the bridge. And so it'll be a sensitive reading time, and we want to honor that space.
Yeah. Thank you, Polly. And then, next week we'll have another Arts Connect Tuesday on Tuesday. Then on Wednesday, which is Valentine's Day and Ash Wednesday, we're also going to make it iHeart Southeast Day and dedicate the iHeart Southeast sculpture in front of Belmont Library. And one of our artists in residence, John Woodrum, last year developed the sculpture and had done 3D workshops in all the libraries. So we're going to have cake.
Whoa.
There'll be cake. And but we're going to be gathered at 4:30 for plucking. So if you haven't plucked before, it's a good opportunity. And then at 5:30, the kids are going to pull the paper off of the sculpture, and all shall be revealed. And so that's on the 14th. Then Catherine Devine is working hard getting the event set up on the 20th, the gallery of talk.
Yeah, please,
And-
if you can. And then, Doug, can I ask you, because you had mentioned something about having the youth poet laureate being present for that also?
Yes, ma'am. And our youth poet laureate is Alani Spencer, and she will be presenting to council. So we're going to introduce her to the city council, which will be pretty exciting. But prior to that, she's going to come, and she has a poem that she would like to, and it's called The City. But she has one poem that she'd like to do. It'd be brief, but she'd like to do that as part of the gallery talk, and then we'll have her do another poem up at up for city council. So the real debut will be to our little community. How's that? Is that okay, Catherine?
Yeah. I might get you to, or I'll ask Corey for that information so I can also share that. And if it's okay to share that on my Facebook for folks who don't know about this yet.
Yeah, it sure is. And we've been kind of waiting to not put out a whole lot about her because we wanted to introduce her to council and make that the big reveal. But yeah, Alani Spencer, her name's out there, and people saw her when she was selected that day at the Rhythm and Rhyme Festival. Don't forget to do the survey if you haven't done it. The survey results, I guess we're not like, I like to see a herd be built. So I like knowing what the results are. We find out every week how many people have done the survey, and we're doing really well. So let's keep it up. I think we're gonna knock this out of the ballpark. And then that was it. I think I had one more thing on there. All right, who has anything else that we missed? Brian?
I got posters for Daisy Art Parade that's here at the Doug's office. If anyone wants to help distribute them, I'd appreciate it.
Excellent. Anybody else have anything?
Is there certain hours? I need to grab a bunch more catalogs I'm pitching in for an arts show and party and festival. I don't even know how to describe it, at Breadcraft on Saturday. And I'd love to have a bunch of catalogs. So is there a time that's best to swing by and grab those?
That office, my conference room, is open from 8 to 5, any time. I don't need to be there.
Okay.
So, yeah. Wow. Anything else?
one thing I'm doing with distributing the catalogs is I'll usually take a photo, which I'll post on Facebook or something and be like, the Arts Connect catalog is available here, here, and here. And so that seems to be working well. If anybody else wants to do that.
Excellent. Missy Dawn.
So I have a question. I know that there was originally an Excel spreadsheet that was started about the distribution. Has that been updated? Because I tapped into it recently and I didn't know when or if the last time it had been updated was. So if we still need to get out to certain locations that are on that list.
Yeah, please do update it. I'll show you. I have it pulled up here.
Sorry,
Oh,
I
no,
appreciate it. I just saw that like social services, like there's just some places that I would be
Yeah.
willing to hit up
Would
to
you-
share things.
Yeah, as far as I know, if it's still blank, it's fair
Okay.
game. Please write your name on it and thank you. That would be, I'd really appreciate that. That's great. So go ahead and put your name on it. If you get there and if somebody's already hit it, you don't need to leave more. And then I will invite everybody to think of a non-traditional, unexpected partner or place. And I say partner, it could be somebody that you think would not have any interest in it at all, and have a conversation with them and talk to them about it, or a place that you wouldn't expect. One place I saw that hadn't had any delivered to was Williamson Road Library, which is the natural. So, has anybody taken any to Williamson Road? Oh, okay, you have. Okay. So Corey, if anybody's taken them places and not updated that list, please update that list too.
Yeah,
And I
sorry
can-
about
Oh, that's right. I'll send it back out again. I know how these links are. They're hard to find
Mhm.
once you.
Hey, I'll bring some to Hoot and Holler, Doug, because I know Lee's gonna be there and there'll be some presenters there that are part of the catalog.
Great. All right, and they might still have a stack there at the Grandin too, already. Yeah. Excellent. Oh, I always say, oh my gosh, how am I gonna make it through past 8 o'clock
Oh, I know.
on a Tuesday night? And I always leave energized. So thank you all. I appreciate you all.
Yeah, thank you, everybody. Good to see ya.
All right, have a good night.
Woo-hoo.
Thank
Go
you,
team.
guys.
Thank you.
We got this.
Let's see, where do I make it stop? Stop recording, there it is.